Hey guys, welcome to the studio, welcome to the vlog. As you know, the past couple of days I've been in a session recording with Marvin vocals.
In the lightning, lost in the lightning, got to close my eyes and...
3 songs in total. If you want to know how we recorded them, how we wrote them, just check out the past videos. We'll link one up there. Today it's of course time to continue working on these songs. And there is still a lot I have to take care of, comping the vocals, like picking the right kind of parts and combining them into the verse and chorus and the bridge. Tuning the vocals if necessary, also getting rid of clicks and everything that has to do with the vocal. And then of course EQing, and I wanted to base today's video entirely on EQing, how to EQ, tips and tricks to EQ, what EQing actually is. So basically everything EQing coming up today.
Give you my loving. I ain't gonna give you my loving.
So first up, what is EQing? Very simple. It's actually the same as like increasing, decreasing the volume of your song with the gain knob. But instead of doing that with all of the frequencies, with the entire signal at once, you can do it to certain parts of the frequency range. For example, right here in the rack, we got an EQ. This one right here got 5 bands, high frequencies, mid frequencies 3 times, and low frequencies. Here in this case, you can set the shape, shelf, from really wide to really narrow. Also the gain, of course, increasing, decreasing. The frequency that you choose right here, and all of this of course twice for stereo and for all of those bands. These outboard EQs and also the ones that emulate outboard gear, vintage outboard gear, they are usually a bit more limited, but they have the advantage that they also give your song or the file that you're EQing a certain character. If that's what you want to go for, then definitely take one of those vintage ones. But today I want to just talk about EQing in general. I think the coloring is already something really specific. But yeah, let's actually jump right into Logic. The Logic standard EQ is just the parametric one, which I absolutely love. They integrated so many new features with the past couple of updates. You can do mid-side EQing and all these kind of fancy things, but today we will stick to the more simple stuff so that you will be able to properly EQ whatever you're working on. So let's get rid of all of the other plugins, won't need them. This right here is the EQ. I personally always love to hit the analyze, so you can actually also see what you're hearing.
And if we have those days, even might be strange, we're gonna make a change.
So those are the vocals, pure as they are. For almost every single element you will ever have in any of your tracks, you should consider a low cut. Maybe on a kick and maybe on the very sub bass part you won't need it, but still actually on the very sub part you want to make sure to get rid of the very low frequencies that are just there as energy and not really as sound anymore. They will just take away the space in your mix unnecessary for something no one can anyways hear. You can also see here in the analyzer, even the vocal
and if we have those days,
has below 100 hertz frequencies. We do not need them, so get rid of it. Just a simple low cut. You could also call it a high pass, but for me personally, if someone says high pass, it's usually for me like cutting at least half of the sound away before I start calling it a high pass. But yeah, anyways, just cut your vocals maybe to 150 hertz just to get rid of the very low end. Same for synthesizers, same for bass sounds, for upper bass sounds, even more. And I usually personally, I cut into the sound until I can hear that the low part is being taken away and like cutting into the meat kind of part of the sound. So in this case,
and if we have those days, even might be strange, we're gonna make it change.
Exactly, at around 200 hertz, I can start hearing that it's taking away a little bit of the voice. And we don't want that. We want to keep the sound in there. We want to have the low frequencies of his voice in the song, but of course nothing below it. So I'm backing off a tiny bit again.
And if we have those days, even might be strange, we're gonna make a change.
So there's virtually almost no difference when you bypass the EQ, but it will make a difference once you have like 50 tracks and all of them have this little bit of bass going on that is unnecessary. Then you will be questioning yourself, why is the mix not really translating? A low cut is really the essential tool. I have it, as I said, on probably almost every single track. Even if I can't hear it and even if I can't see it in the analyzer, I still cut it away just to make sure. Then actually what you can almost always do is increasing the high frequencies with a high shelf for vocals and for almost all other elements that are like main elements, just to have that shine on top and make them cut through the mix a little better. Vocals especially, because most mics are a little weak in the top part. They reduce the top frequencies a little bit due to how they were built. So increasing that, giving the vocal presence, makes sense in almost all cases.
And if we have those days, even might feel strange, we're gonna make a change.
Cutting the very high frequencies with a high cut is usually more a stylistic choice if you want to make the vocal sound filtered or make it sound a little more dull. I would usually not do it, maybe automate it with a filter as an effect in house music. You can also use it on like drum loops, which is really nice to introduce them on a guitar to make sure to cut away the top frequencies whenever the voice is playing, to not make both of them collide. But here in this case, of course, we won't need it. And then every kind of shaping in the mid kind of frequency part is so individual for the voice that I won't really be able to cover it in a general kind of sense. You really have to listen to the voice. I usually leave it alone because like my setup with the mic and the vocal booth, there's usually nothing in it that kind of distracts me. But if you have certain frequencies that might be too emphasized in the voice of the singer, reduce them a little bit, boost them a little bit, but don't start doing like crazy things like boosting it by 11 dBs. This, in most cases, is a sign for that something went wrong while recording or the singer isn't really good. I would like step away from these kind of things. A voice, if you record it properly, sounds already pretty good. The rest is then about compression and like having the right reverb there and like stacking the vocals with like doubles left and right and all these kind of things. Next up, the guitar. Same here, again, a low cut. Here I'm cutting even a little more because eventually there will be a bass underneath, and so that both don't mask each other, I cut a little bit more into the guitar. We won't need the very, very low frequencies of the guitar because we already have like the bass underneath taking care of those kind of frequencies. With the guitar, I actually like to get rid a little bit of the mid frequencies just to make more room for the vocals if both of them are playing at the same time. And again, the high cut is more like stylistic to just introduce the guitar. Next up, hi-hat. You can hear that there's like a knocking in there. We get rid of it by cutting it away. It was around 200 Hertz. We don't need that. You won't be able to hear it in the mix. So you might be thinking, why cut it away if you can't hear it? But it will be there. It will be masking, interfering with other frequencies. Get rid of it. Make your sounds individually as clean as possible while listening to them solo, and then listening to them again in the mix and making sure you didn't cut away too much. Because if they're like in the mix sounding thin, maybe you overdone the EQing a little bit. Then the next part on hi-hats, I like to have like a very narrow band like this right here and go through the frequencies to find like resonating frequencies. This can happen in synthesizer sounds and hi-hat sounds. I like to go through and find like the most irritating frequency by boosting it. If it really hurts, you found the right one. This one right here is really nasty. And then just lowering it. A and B testing if it was the right one. Yeah, I mean, you can also see it in an analyzer. There's like a peak. And the hi-hat still sounds the same, but without this resonating bullshit going on in the top frequencies. That's already like the finer part of EQing. It's really about like shaping the sounds that you have available to go well together, and also like correcting, for example, getting rid of those resonating frequencies. Please avoid like boosting in very narrow bands. This usually doesn't sound good. The main rule is like if you decrease, do it in a narrow band. If you boost, maybe a little wider. And if you do like crazy EQ settings that I sometimes see, for example, like, I don't know, stuff like this, you're doing something wrong. That's not how you should be EQing. If you start, instead of pushing the sound a little bit towards like being able to fit in a mix and make it sound a little better, if you start like completely transforming it with your EQ, I would probably suggest just trying to get another sound. So if you have, for example, a kick and you start crazy EQing it, maybe just take another kick. It's easier, it's faster, and you will probably just screw up if you do like wild EQing stuff. It shouldn't be the case. Your sound should be already there like 90%. Also, while EQing, don't exaggerate with the EQing. For example, here in the vocals, like maybe boosting the top frequencies by 4 or 5 dB is enough. If you boost them by like 24, will just sound terrible and it won't be able to fit into the mix. So be gentle with it. EQing is like a really fine kind of art. And another tip, you usually have like a gain knob or a gain fader on every kind of EQ. Use it to like, for example, if you boost like the top frequencies, then maybe lower the entire signal to have it still at the same volume. This way, if you disable the EQ and do like A and B comparisons, you can actually listen to what the difference actually is without being like fooled and tricked just by it being louder. Because usually if things are louder, it sounds better. So if you boost the high frequencies, you might think, yeah, that's the right step like for my mix, but it might be not the right step. So use the gain to kind of keep the volume the same, and then A and B compare quite a lot actually. That's it with my EQing tips. I hope you learned something. If you have any other suggestion that I might forget, just leave it in the comments, your tips, maybe share them with everyone else here in this community. I think EQing is really something more subtle than a lot of people make out of it. It's important. You need to do it almost on every single track, especially the low cut, but doing like crazy things, I usually try to stay away from it and then just go back one step down again to the source of the sound, the sample, the recording. That usually gives me better results. So that's it for today. I will now continue working on the song and later on do a lot of business stuff. There is a new release on my label called Ain't Gonna Give. It's a really cool housey kind of club track. I will link it down below in the description, first link. It's by Gary Ocean. He also did the one track with Gavin Beach, which has like, I think now 500,000 plays on Spotify. So go check it out. It's a really nice track, and we will see us tomorrow back again here in the studio.